Okay, Nolan and Zoe, Governor Gretchen Whitmer's sixth State of the State address was Wednesday here in the state of Michigan. I thought immediately that this was a more modest speech than we heard from the governor, especially last year when she was sort of in the initial days of this new powerful majority of Democrats in the state house. She had a really ambitious agenda. This time, it was a little more calculating and I think a little more strategic, given that that majority is not there right now, at least in the House. And of course, this is an election year, which means that we won't get anything done after about May or June anyway. But I'm curious to hear what your reactions were. Zoe, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a more muted speech, right? Like not the enthusiasm. I mean, we have to note, of course, all of this is happening in the midst of Lions wins, and so the governor certainly mentioned the Detroit Lions quite a number of times, more I think even than road funding, possibly, if you can imagine that. So I mean, she was enthusiastic, but I think particularly when you look back to last year, right, when Democrats came with that, I mean, they each had like printed sheets of the things they wanted to get done vis-a-vis social policy, whether it be abortion or LGBTQ rights, or the economy, whether that be the earned income tax credit changes. But this year, I mean, I don't know that anyone could come out and say, here are the six things, and they're really amazing and exciting in the way that last year. So yeah, I don't think it was compared to last year as much of just sort of a powerful in your face, here's what we're going to get done. And some of that, as you mentioned, is because of the politics surrounding all of it.
Yeah, Nolan, nonetheless, we saw the Republican response last night just light a fire about this speech, essentially accusing the governor of hyper partisanship. I mean, you're always going to get the opposing party to say, hey, we thought the speech sucked. But in this case, it seemed like there was a bit of an overreaction to what she was talking about. There's a
Well, they
mismatch.
spent Well, I mean, we spent the past year watching hyperpartisan politics in action. They were included on very little of the decision making. Being in the minority after 40 years in the majority, it's sort of a hard pill to swallow, and so there's some bitterness there. But this speech to me was like, you know, had the grogginess, the post Thanksgiving meal grogginess you feel. They spent $9 billion of federal money and they're just gorged on it. And now they woke up from their nap and they're trying to cram down another piece of pumpkin pie. It's just that feel, oh, can we do it? And there wasn't a whole lot new. What struck me though is she continuing this um, expansion of government assistance programs to the middle class and wealthy. And I don't really understand that. We've got a lot of people in this state who obviously need help. And it would seem to me like you can't help them as much as you ought to if you're giving out freebies to middle class and wealthy people. She talked about her universal pre-K program by saying no matter how much money you make, you're going to get that should never be what government says. Assistance should go to the people who need assistance.
Well, I mean, I guess that's if you see these things as assistance or welfare. I think a lot of people would say these are pillars of good economies. You look at other states in the Midwest and what they're doing. They do these things. Minnesota, I think, is probably the best example of that. These are the kinds of institutions that states that are outperforming us gird with public support, and they don't see it as giveaways. They see it as making sure that everybody has access to the same kind of necessities, and that you don't tailor it in a way that that takes it from people who need it. But Zoe, what do you think of that idea of her leaning into the idea of giving stuff away?
Well, I mean, all of this, let's put into context, is coming with what we thought, I think, was that there was going to be a lot more details, or at least pushing it forward from the Growing Michigan Together Council proposals, which we've all talked about a lot, right? Which is this idea of sort of a strategy to make Michigan a top 10 state again, whether it
You should
comes,
maybe take top 20.
I was going to, that's why I
Top
sort of
40 would
hesitated. I'm like,
probably be more
maybe,
reasonable.
yeah, I say top 25 would be nice. And so, I mean, again, this goes back to the idea of whose strategy, because I mean, what you're both talking about is this sort of Democratic versus Republican strategy when it comes to growing the economy. And the issue is, in politics and in government, you know, there isn't this block where someone gets power for 20 years and can sort of see their vision from A to Z. And so this is now Democrats in charge saying, this is how we think we can grow the economy. To Nolan's earlier point, though, about this $9 billion, I mean, you're absolutely right. I don't know about the pumpkin pie analogy, although now I really do want some pie. But I mean, the fact is, there was this $9 billion surplus. A lot of that, of course, because of, you know, what Republicans like to call, you know, Biden bucks, right? This was federal dollars that came into the state because of the pandemic. And much of that money is
It's gone. Yeah.
And so really what Democrats have to figure out when you're talking about 10,000 new housing, you know, whether that's rehabilitation or building new houses, I mean, I think we can all agree that there is a housing crisis in this state. But when you're talking about, you know, $1.5 billion, where is that money going to come from? And so that, again, is where you could talk about these policy proposals, particularly as Democrats, what they think is going to grow the economy, help the middle class. But with all of it, it's where are the dollars going to come from? And we'll hear from the governor, right? February 7th.
Well, the budget address is just around the corner.
Exactly.
We've only got about 2 minutes left. Of course, they never give us enough time. How much of this can she get done with the uncertainty in the House and with the election looming? Nolan, what's your take?
Well, none for a while. But, you know, I was surprised here. She just had this growth council and it put out its report. I thought the speech would be all about that. And had you not known that there had been a growth council report, you wouldn't know it from the speech. This was her opportunity to sell Michigan on that and to lay out that strategy. And she didn't do it. And I can't quite figure out why.
Zoe?
In terms of getting it done, I mean, this is going to be a relationship with Speaker of the House, Joe Tate. I was talking to him last night exactly about this. What are you going to tee up first? He has a caucus right now of 54 members to manage all of their priorities. Possibly as early as April, we could see a 56 majority again. But then at that point, they've got to focus on the budget. So, you know, it's going to be really interesting to see how they stack these proposals and which ones they even bring to floor votes.
Watch One Detroit, Thursday at 7:30 p.m. You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.